Hello there, intrepid heroes of the Storm player. It is I, Zamanda, and I'm back again to help you learn how to play our shiny new Protoss friend Artanis. Like always, this is a beginner's guide, and as such it is not meant to carry you to rank 1, but it is simply meant to inform you on this character's capabilities. So without further ado, let's get on into the guide. Artanis is a zealot archetype warrior from the StarCraft universe. His playstyle involves getting into the thick of the fight and laying down steady damage on whoever his target is. He is able to outduel essentially anyone except for melee assassins, and if he is not stunned or otherwise crowd controlled, he can be extremely difficult to kill. Artanis thrives in the middle of combat and is an in-your-face diving bruiser who specializes in getting to an enemy's back line and causing havoc. His trait is Shield Overload. If you take damage while below 50% health, gain a shield for 5 seconds. Your basic attacks lower the cooldown of Shield Overload by 4 seconds. This trait essentially means that as long as Artanis is free to continue refreshing the cooldown on the shield, he's going to be extremely hard to kill. So as an Artanis player, what you're trying to avoid is anything that would stop you from auto-attacking your opponent. This shield only activates when you're below 50% health, so try to keep that in mind. Artanis' Q ability is Blade Dash. Dash forward and deal damage to enemies, then return and deal more damage on the way back. Artanis' Blade Dash is a peculiar ability as it doesn't make Artanis actually unstoppable. So if you get hit by some sort of crowd control like a snare or a stun, Artanis will stop exactly where he was hit. This can put you out of position and make you an easy target, so always exercise caution when using Blade Dash. Despite not being unstoppable, you can still use Blade Dash to go through otherwise unpassable objects such as walls or map edges. Blade Dash can also be used to throw off enemy pursuers, as many people see Artanis dash away and not realize that he has to come back to his starting position. It won't fool advanced players, but it's always worth a go in an otherwise sure death situation. Finally, notice that Blade Dash deals most of its damage on the return stroke, so try to put your target in a position where you can guarantee a hit on the return. Artanis' W ability is Twin Blades. Your next auto attack immediately strikes twice. Twin Blades forms the bread and butter button spam of Artanis' kit. If you don't find yourself madly mashing the W button as much as you can, then you're simply doing it wrong. Twin Blades synergizes perfectly with Shield Overload as it represents a way to reset its cooldown timer. Don't forget that each auto attack is 4 seconds closer to Shield Overload being refreshed, and Twin Blades definitely counts. Thanks to this ability, few people can duel Artanis because he'll be able to put out so many more attacks over the same amount of time. Don't forget it can also be handy for destroying scouting drones, treasure chests, and the like. Artanis' E ability is Phase Prism. Fire a Phase Prism that deals damage to heroes and swaps your position with theirs. Phase Prism represents an underappreciated aspect of Artanis' kit. As with all MOBAs, positioning is the most important aspect of the game. Phase Prism allows Artanis to quickly throw someone out of position and into your back lines for an easy kill. Alternatively, you can use Phase Prism to remove an offending bruiser or assassin from harassing your teammates. Phase Prism is much slower moving than most skill shots in the game, so it is possible for enemies to outrun it if they are mounted or capable of moving quickly. However, there is no set max range on how far the swap is, so if you were to shoot out the prism and rapidly move backwards thanks to something like a Falstad Mighty Gust, the distance swapped can be quite immense. Obviously, big targets such as Azmodan are easier to hit than smaller targets like Vala. Artanis' first ultimate is Suppression Pulse. Fire a large area pulse from the Spear of Adun, dealing damage and blinding enemies for 4 seconds. Suppression Pulse is a curious ultimate ability. Not only does it have a global range, but it doesn't do that much damage. Its real power is in its blind effect. This means that unless you are playing against a team comp that features multiple auto-attack damage assassins, or a team comp centered around buffing one single auto-attacker, this ultimate can be pretty underwhelming. Therefore, only pick it if you know you're going to be shutting down multiple people on the enemy team. Artanis' second ultimate is Purifier Beam. Target an enemy hero with an orbital beam from the Spear of Adun, dealing damage per second for 8 seconds. The beam will chase the target as they move. Purifier Beam is a global ranged ult that is best comboed with crowd control effects by your team. Something like a Murky Octograb or an ETC Mosh Pit is perfect. Furthermore, because it'll damage anybody on the enemy team regardless of the target, it is often worth it to try to throw it in the middle of a team fight or on a big target that can't really escape from it. As this ability does extreme amounts of damage, you should always try to use it as early in the fight as you can. Now let's move on into the talent section. Talents are what make any character in the Heroes of the Storm unique. Use your talent choices to counter the enemy team or complement yours. Never blindly follow a guide because there is simply no way to account for every possible scenario. That being said, Artanis as a character has a pretty well-defined path to move down for his talents. You're either going all damage, all defense, or a mixture of both. The build we're going to be discussing today for Artanis is a balanced build that should help you do both a lot of damage and stay alive. There are builds that let you specialize strictly into damage or strictly into defense, but we're not going to talk about them here. For this build, at level 1 we're taking Reactive Parry. Activating Twin Blades reduces the damage received from the next hero basic attacks by 50%, can store up to 2 charges. At level 4 we're taking Lethal Alacrity, increases Blade Dash range and speed by 30%. At level 7 we're taking Psionic Synergy. Every time Blade Dash hits an enemy hero, it reduces Shield Overload's cooldown by 4 seconds. At level 10 you can take either Suppression Pulse or Purifier Beam. If the enemy team has a bunch of auto attackers, take Suppression Pulse. If not, choose Purifier Beam. At level 13 we're taking Phase Bulwark. When Shield Overload activates, you take 50% less damage from abilities for 3 seconds. At level 16 we're taking Zealot Charge. While Twin Blades is active, you can charge a short distance to your target. And at level 20 we're taking Force of Will. Increases Shield Overload's cooldown reduction from basic attacks to 6 seconds. This build seeks to marry the damage and defensive capabilities of Artanis in the most efficient way, allowing him to still deal out high amounts of damage whilst remaining relatively durable. This build exemplifies what in my opinion is Artanis' ideal niche, that of the team's second warrior and its bruiser. This goes perfectly with a true tank such as Johanna, ETC, or Muradin. What this build means is essentially that you're taking less damage from everybody with the level 1 talent Reactive Parry and the level 13 talent Phase Bulwark. This means that no matter who you're going after, they're going to be doing reduced damage to you. The Zealot Charge removes what I think is Artanis' most glaring weakness, which is his inability to stick on an opponent. Much like Illidan, who can constantly dash to an enemy, Artanis with Zealot Charge is extremely hard to get rid of. This allows you to do a maximum amount of damage to squishy characters like Vala, who have a limited ability to dash away. Your level 20 ability, Force of Will, allows you to rapidly recharge your Plasma Overload ability. This means that a skilled Artanis player, once past level 20, will be able to almost keep up their shields indefinitely so long as they are not affected by any crowd control effects. Lethal Alacrity and Psionic Synergy just continue along that thread. Being able to use it and instantly reset your shield is a fantastic way to keep yourself going in team fights. Thus, Artanis should never be willingly chosen as your team's only warrior. However, he represents the perfect second warrior or high health bruiser to counter high burst teams. Realize that he is a late game character, and even if you struggle in the beginning, it is certainly possible to come out later in the game and absolutely dominate the enemy team. No matter what build you end up going, Artanis' life is directly tied to his ability to auto attack. Without that, he's not recharging his shield, so you'll often find yourself trading 1-for-1 with him, as you'll always survive longer fighting than you would running away. Also, learn to keep an eye on your allies and your minimap. The fact that your ultimate abilities have a global range means you can easily win fights for your allies even if you are on the other side of the map. A well-timed Suppression Pulse or Purifier Beam can save a fleeing ally or finish off a fleeing enemy. Artanis is a character with whom practice is immensely important. It is extremely difficult to get a feel for exactly what the optimum play is without dozens of games played. I still find myself realizing new tricks and things to do with him all the time. Like all bruisers, he walks that fine line between recklessly dying and smartly pressuring and engaging. It's very easy to rack up quite a few deaths, and you need to be sure that your team will be backing you up on every engage. Also note as Artanis that you can take any mercenary camp you want and not drop below 50% health, as your shield should recharge before any mercenaries can break through it. This includes bosses after level 20 and objective bosses before then. Just understand it takes an immense amount of time to work your way through a bruiser camp or a boss, even though they might not actually be able to kill you. In team fights with Artanis, your role is that of the disruptor. You're going to dive into the enemy back line and distract them, so hopefully they won't be able to do damage to your team or otherwise be helpful. If you dive onto Avala and cause her to run away, she's not using her ultimate to stun your team. If you dive onto Alili and cause her to run away, then she's not healing her team. Oftentimes, this will mean that as Artanis, you'll command a double or even a triple team. Though you might die, a team that knows how to play with Artanis will know that this means that they can then go on to win the team fight. Don't be afraid of dying or diving with Artanis as much as you would be with somebody, say, like a Butcher. Every single point of damage on you is much less effective than it would be on another member of your team. However, this does not mean that you are not an effective healer for your own backline. Phase Prism is an extremely strong ability and could swap around a body block. Throwing it on an enemy melee assassin or an enemy ranged assassin can cause them to go way out of position and become easy pickings for your team. Do note that the level 20 upgrade for Purifier Beam means that it is possible to cast it 5 times in a row, once for each enemy hero, even if you can't see them or they aren't necessarily in the team fight radius. For example, on a team with an Abathur, if Abathur is the only hero left alive when Purifier Beam kills somebody, that Purifier Beam will then transfer to Abathur no matter where he is on the map. Artanis has quickly become one of my favorite heroes, as he represents a very unique style of gameplay that isn't fully explored by either Sonya or Arthas. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, that'll do it for this edition of Zimm Gaming. My name is Amanda, and please hit that subscribe button. I'd love to do more and more guides, so go ahead and throw in the comments who you'd to see next. You can find us on Facebook, as well as twitch.tv/Zamanda. Also follow us on Twitter. Anyway, once again, guys, thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. You guys are awesome, and we'll see you in the Nexus.